So for business planning, we're going to start with Jim Rohn's quote. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. Now this is really true. People think about themselves, and it may be a failing of the human race, but it's certainly a natural part of the human race. We think about ourselves. If you don't have your plan intact, and if you're not working towards executing your plan each day, then there are companies out there that spend millions and millions of dollars to try to get you to follow their plan. All of the marketing campaigns out there, the billboards, the radio ads, the television ads, all of these things are designed to get you to follow somebody else's plan. Your children coming up to you and hounding you over and over and over for that treat or that toy at the store. Everybody's trying to get you to follow their plan. And if you don't have one of your own, then you will end up giving in and following somebody else's plan, whether it's buying something that you really don't need and overextending yourself on a credit card, or whether it's buying your children treats that you know aren't good for them because they're more insistent on how you live your life than you are on how you live your own life. So today we're talking strictly how to build a business plan for real estate, not the other stuff about what car you buy or treats you get your kids, but we're talking here about real estate. You have to have a business plan and to maintain the focus that you need to be successful. I have agents come and go all the time. I've been doing this for 10 years. I've had 100 agents in my office for probably 8 of those years. And having an agent that can operate themselves, that they have the self-control, the self-drive, the self-motivation to do this business, they're actually kind of rare. A lot of agents will want to partner with somebody else that has those attributes they're hoping will tow them along in life, kind of. But these attributes, even though they're rare, they are developable by anybody. So whether you're a natural at this or you have to build it yourself from scratch, it is certainly possible to do. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first part of your business plan is having a goal in place. Now, we've talked about goals, and I actually have other trainings that we go much more in detail on goals. But today we're going to keep things fairly simple. Okay? You can actually hire business planners, and they'll charge you thousands of dollars to come in and plan your business for you. We're not doing that today. We're going to keep this simple, something that you guys can take with you this week, that you can implement into your businesses today and tomorrow and the next day, that will make immediate changes for you. Okay? And it's not going to cost you a couple $1,000s to do. So starting out with your goals, there's 2 different questions that we ask ourselves. What do you want to make, and what do you have to make? Now, the reason there's a difference here is, let's say I want to make $100,000 a year. I think that would be cool. All the other jobs I've had have offered me $40,000 a year. That's with a college degree, maybe 45 or something. That's what it was when I graduated. I don't know what they're at now. But those are the other jobs, that the job offers that I've got. 100,000, that sounds like a fun number. You know, nobody in my family's earned 6 digits. I think it would be fun if I were the first to do that. Okay? Now, when we're talking about, hey, this would be fun, that's fine, there's always a fallback, though. It would be fun. We tried, but we didn't get it. And so that's okay. Life's okay. So what do you have to make? If I don't make this much, then I have to quit real estate and I have to get another job. Or if I don't make this much, then we're back to our ramen noodle college level budget. Okay? If I don't make this much, we have to sell one of the cars. And then my wife is driving me to all of my appointments. What do you have to make? And that's a very different feeling to that question. The fun is gone out of the equation now. This is bare bones. This is serious business. If I don't do this, then we're out of business. Okay? I'm back at that $40,000 a year job working 60 hours a week with an ungrateful boss and a whole bunch of interoffice politics that drives me nuts. Okay? This is the serious side. And so when we make these goals, we're going to bracket it top and bottom. What would be fun and what's the bare bones, because this is going to help us focus every day. There is no leeway here on what I have to make. I can't say, oh, it's okay, today was kind of a bomb. I just blew it off. That's not possible when you have these goals in front of you. All right. Other things that are important with your goals. What was the average sales price in your market last year? Are you living up here in Utah? We've got Park City. Nothing in Park City is cheap. Okay. A little one-bedroom studio apartment costs more than a 3 or 4 bedroom house down in Ogden, which is my market. So in Ogden, let's say my average sales price is $150,000. How many homes am I going to need to sell to hit my goals? And I'm going to find the number for each goal. And the bottom one is going to be, this is an absolute must. I have to do this. And the top goal would be, you know what, this is something that's going to stretch me. On the days when I feel good, I'm going to make extra calls, whatever. But I'm never going to violate this goal right here. I'm not going to break that one. And then what percentage of clients that you had actually closed? So let's say that I sign on 10 new clients. How many of them are actually going to close when I'm figuring out my budget? Am I going to close 100% of my listings? Probably not. There's some that won't sell. Clients will change their minds. Some of my buyers are going to end up renting. They're going to make a stupid purchase. Like we had a guy a month or so ago went out and bought a $40,000 truck the week before he was supposed to close on a $70,000 house. Obviously, that killed his chances of buying a home for probably 5 years. What percentage of your clients are actually going to close? Now, as an aid to you on this, I'm going to share with you some forms that I use. Let me see if I can find them here. Okay. See if I can pull this up. All right, so this is our daily business plan guide. Now, every day that I come into work, well, I'll be honest with you, it's probably every other day or every 2 days, because as I get further down, I'm scheduling activities that I'm not getting done in one day. They're kind of bigger projects I'm working on, but every day is the ideal. I print this out, okay? And some days I'm better than others, and it is every day. Some weeks I'll print out 3 for the whole week. But this is meant to be a daily business plan guide, okay? And I made this specifically after creating this training. Some of you know, I'm going to show you the other one that I used, okay? This was a form. It's going to make it really big for us here. Okay, this was a form that I used to use, and it was great. I could track my had I reviewed my goals? Did I exercise? Did I plan and prioritize today? Did I read an audiobook? Did I get my head in the right spot to start the day out, listing all the things I'm grateful for, the top 20 people I needed to call, the top 5 activities I needed to do? I really like this form, and I've used it for a long time. But lately, I've been going back to this one. And forgive me if you can't follow me jumping around to forms a lot online. Hopefully you can. But let me show you what I like about this form. Every single day I print it out, and I don't have this auto-filled. You could do that. You could just type in your income goal yearly, your transaction goal yearly, your monthly closing, your monthly client goal. You could just type this in, save that, and print that out every day. I want to handwrite it because to me it sinks in a little bit more. My income goal is I want to make $100,000. All right? In order to do that, I've got to have 24 transactions. Now, how did I figure that? Well, let me get my calculator up here and see if I'm just throwing numbers out now. So let's see. If I've got $4,500, if my average sales price is $150, my average commission is $4,500. I'm paying equities $4.99 transaction fees, so I'm making about $4,000 a transaction. 4,000 times 24, that gives me 96. So transaction goal yearly would be 25. Okay, I could keep it 24 so that it's 2 a month, because I'll have a couple bigger deals in there for sure. Monthly closing goal, Well, this one's easy, right? I've got my yearly goal. To break it down to monthly, I just divide it by 2. So I've got to have 2 closings a month. Now, the next question is what we were just talking about. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. So now that I know my average sales price and I've got my goal of how much I want to make or need to make, my average sales price is 150. I can start filling out this form. All right. What percentage of clients actually closed? Now I can go back to that form and say, let's go back to it. Well, let's say I'm 50%. Okay. Only half of my clients that I sign on actually close. I've got some listings that are higher priced. A lot of people are seeing this really strong economy and just throwing out outrageous numbers. You know, I listed a lot yesterday where it's up by a golf course in an undeveloped area. There's lots from 100,000 all the way up to 300,000. So a huge spread. And it depends on how the lot's situated and how steep the ground is and everything. But it's probably a fairly, you know, we're priced right in the middle, right around 200,000. Is it going to sell? I honestly don't have a clue. It's 100 to 300,000. I don't know. There's a lot of lots for sale up around it. So only half of mine are going to close. I've got to get 4 clients a month. Now, the next question that we have is, how many appointments do I need to go on? If I need 4 clients a month, that's an appointment every week, or at least a client signed on every week. How many appointments do I need to sign a client? And at this point, again, this comes down to you tracking your numbers. What is your turn ratio? I'm going to say that I'm going to close 50% of the appointments I go on. So I'm going to, you know, if I go on 2 listing appointments, I'll land one. The other one won't go with me. So I'm going to need at least 2 appointments a week. And how many people do I need to call to land those 2 appointments? So I've got a daily call goal of about 20. Now, where does this 20 number come from? It comes from actually a lot of you guys know Steve Stringham probably. He's a great guy. This was a goal that I gave to him. This was my own goal that I gave to myself when I went from being a non-competing broker to actually practicing real estate again. At 20 calls a day, Steve's experience went like this. After about 3 weeks, I said, "Hey, Steve, you still making those calls?" And he says, "Yeah, I am, but it's getting pretty busy right now." I said, "Well, keep it up." And after 5 weeks, because he came to me and he said, "I have to make $100,000 a year or my wife's going to be very displeased with me. And I need to do it my very first year." So Steve was a brand new agent in my office, and that's what he said. I said, "Well, let's start here." So about 5 weeks into it, I come to him, and I did a training every week, just like now. And Steve came in. I said, "Steve, how are those calls going?" He says, "Honestly, I'm making maybe 10 a day because I am slammed with business." I said, "Well, keep making them regularly because you don't want to get into that roller coaster ride and stuff." And if you ask Steve now, he's on the phone probably 70 or 80 calls a day. He's not proactively calling, though, because he's built up a client base where a lot of those calls are him taking care of people. Well, some of them are taking care of his agents, of course, because he's a broker now as well. But his business has changed where a lot of people are calling him. Okay, but to get started, 20 calls a day. A few years ago, I had been a non-competing broker for 4 years. I'd given away my databases to my team. I'd given away my signs. I didn't have lock boxes. I was just being a broker and a trainer, and I started to realize, you know what? I've been out of the game too long. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't train real life because I haven't worked in this market. It's changed too much over the last 4 years. And so I talked to my agents. Nobody seemed to care, and I said, I'm going to be out practicing real estate again. And I didn't know, honestly, it was a real test for me because I thought I'm putting my pride on the line. I've been training on this stuff for, I think at the time it was 5 or 6 years I'd been training on it. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. If my training doesn't work, I'm going to change my training or quit training or whatever. But I've been training on this stuff. It's been 4 years since I've done it. Basically, I'd taken a hit to my confidence that I could really do this. So I just went back to square one. and I treated myself like a brand new agent, and I made my daily call goal 20 agents. And that year I closed over 24 transactions. I believe that was the first year. Anyways, I hit my goal, okay? My very first year. I had clients within a week, week and a half. I had a closing within about 35 days, which was crazy. I found a buyer that needed to move really quick. So this has been tried and tested. Set it at 20 calls a day. If you are great on the phones and you can do more than that, you could probably generate a lot more income. For me, I don't like to work more than 50 hours a week. Okay, I like to keep some balance with this in my home life. I've got my wife and 5 kids. I like to have some balance. So 20 calls a day works very well for me, and I can hit my goals with that. All right. Now, let's jump back to our PowerPoint. Step 1, goals. So as we're going through this today, what I am hoping that you guys have, since you're at home in your pajamas in front of your computer, you're comfortable, you've got a piece of paper there, I hope you're writing these things down, okay? A lot of these things you can just write down. What do I want to make? 100 grand. What do I have to make? 60 grand. What was my average sales price in my market? What percentage of clients closed? You can be doing this along with me, a lot of this stuff right now. Somebody's typed in, does 20 calls mean talking to 20 people or dialing 20 numbers? It means talking to 20 people. And that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking that. I can call from 11 o'clock to noon, and I can probably call 100 people before I would get 20 on the phone. That's not going to be very effective for me. I need to be making my calls when either people are home or I need to be calling. And honestly, when I started up again after 4 years, and Steve did as well, we both knew a lot of people. We started calling our sphere of influence. It wasn't the cold calls. We started working with our sphere of influence. And this was actually the second question somebody's typed in. Who do you call? Really, how do you come up with 20 people per day? For sell by owners, I'll show you how you can come up with 20 people per day. And there's several different ways. And I can reference you to some of my other training programs as well. But let's start with the sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence consists of everybody that you know. Now, my neighbor, and I've kind of made it a point, I don't like listing homes in my own neighborhood. We're a small little neighborhood of about 30 homes around a private park. I don't know, I don't really enjoy working with people that I know. Some of the neighbors I've got a good relationship with, some not. I would much rather work outside my own neighborhood. I know I'm kind of unique that way. Most people would rather take the listing in their own backyard because it's simple. It's really easy to do. I'm a little bit different, so that's fine. But I'm going to give you myself as a bad example, okay? 3 doors up from me, my neighbor listed their house with somebody else, and it really didn't bother me at all. What surprised me, it didn't bother me that much, but it surprised me, is we were down chatting. They came down to our house and were talking with us, and she's like, well, you do real estate? And I said, yeah, I do real estate. And she says, well, maybe you can tell me what's going on, because we don't know if we're getting, that kind of stuff. We don't know if we're getting taken care of, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I can't really give you too much information. You've got your agent already. And she says, yeah, we probably should have hired you, but you don't work in this area, do you? Don't you work more down in Salt Lake? And I said, well, I live here. I can technically work anywhere, but I'm not worried that you've hired anybody else. I'm fine with that. And she says, well, yeah, these other people, they've just been in business for a long time, and you've only been doing real estate for about 2 years, right? And that floored me right there. They live 3 doors up from us. Our kids play with them all the time. We're on good terms. We're speaking neighbors. We're not like the build the highest fence you can neighbors. And they really don't have a clue. And as most agents find when they start out this process of talking to their sphere of influence, they're surprised at how much their sphere of influence doesn't have a clue what you do. And even if they knew you're a real estate agent, I bet if you took 100 people and asked them all, what do you think a real estate agent does? Maybe 5 of them could guess what your job description is, really. Most of them, they just really don't know. And that, of course, is our responsibility. It's our marketing. So your question, who do you call really? How do you come up with 20 people per day? Start with your neighborhood, okay? I've got a neighborhood of 30 people. That would be my very first step. If I'm a brand new agent starting out, I'm going to go to my neighborhood and I'm going to deliver a flyer to everybody. And if you don't know what to put in the flyer, then refer to my Sphere of Influence training that's on the YouTube channel. But go around and introduce yourself. Say, hey guys, you all know me. I'm your neighbor. I'm just letting everybody know that, because some people don't. I do real estate. Here's a little flyer about what I do and the services I offer. Okay, that part's simple. And I can contact them by door knocking. So when I say 20 calls a day, I mean really 20 contacts a day, and I can accomplish those contacts by going door to door. I can accomplish those on the phone. Some of them I can accomplish by text. I've got some younger clients, and I don't know why, but they really don't like to call. I'll get texts that are like a series of 4 or 5 or 6 texts, or one that's just this monstrous paragraph or something like that. And I'm like, why don't you just call me and talk to me? That seems so much easier. But sometimes for younger people, that's not the way it works. Their preferred method of contact is texting. Even sometimes on Facebook, you can have some contacts that are legitimate real estate contacts. So I'm going to start with my sphere of influence. I'm going to start with my neighborhood. I'm going to talk to, I'm going to make it a point to ask somebody at my kid's soccer game, so what is it you do for a living? We're sitting there with the parents on the side. They're going to tell me, and then they're going to ask me, and I'm going to say, I do real estate. Boom, there's a contact, okay? So I'm going to start with my sphere of influence. Make sure that these people know what I do for a living. To expand out from there. And by the way, I have, if you go over time and you watch that sphere of influence training, I've made it a practice to gather people's information. I haven't printed a business card in 6 years. I don't have them. I don't carry them. I don't give them out. When people are interested in real estate, I make it a point to get their information. I'm a gatherer, okay? So I have a lot of people in my database. And I make it a point to make sure that those people get contacted regularly. So that's how I've built my business. So when I talk my sphere of influence, I've got over 500 people in my sphere of influence. So how do I call 20 a day? Honestly, I pull up my database and I start working my way through it. And it's not that hard. If you're a brand new agent, though, you've got to get to that point. And so a couple of other training videos that you can watch that cover this is we talk about farming. Farming is a great way to really boost your sphere of influence. Can you make 20 calls a day? Absolutely. And now that it's spring/summertime, and I don't know if you watch the news in Utah, we've had spring for, well, ever since December, and yesterday we got like 5 or 6 inches of snow. Weird Utah weather. But regardless of our crazy weather, we can get out to our farm neighborhoods, we can knock doors, we can rapidly increase our sphere of influence almost overnight by that method. Another way of increasing your sphere of influence that I've got a training on is your power team partners, okay? Taking time to go out and talking with other local business leaders. Then you've got the old standbys, the for sale by owner calls, the expired listings, things like that. All of those, great ways to make contacts. There's lots of ways to make contact with people, and especially when you're not just giving away business cards. If you're making it a point, I've got one agent that is, I'm going to say phenomenal and a little bit crazy at the same time. I mean, I go to a gas station with them, and if he watches this video, he'll know I'm talking about him. We're driving somewhere together to a real estate, I think it was a board function. We pull over to get gas. I'm filling up. He's over talking to the next guy getting gas. Talking to him, getting his information, giving him a real estate card. When we go out to lunch together, he gives a business card to the waitress. He asks if the owner's available, and he talks to the owner. He gives a business card to the owner. This guy is one of my top closers, and I don't think he gets on the phones a day of his life, but he makes it a point to contact everybody. Now, I can't do that personally. Okay, I'd rather work the phones than talk to the guy next to me at the gas station. I'm a little bit more reclusive. He's very much outgoing, and he plays on his personality strengths. So anyways, hopefully that answered your questions. How can you go out and make those contacts? You just do. And how do you just do that? You look at this goal and you say, you know what? I have to do this. Plain and simple. So I go back to my sheet. Let's see, can I get there? Yeah. So I go back to my sheet here, and I say, you know what? I've got to do 20 calls a day to get my 2 appointments. And after a week, if I go back, and I've coached agents before, and I'm like, what is your average calls per day? 3. 3 calls a day. And this is an 8-hour-a-day job. And you might surprise yourself. Okay, you might surprise yourself, and I'm not saying a pleasant surprise either. When you start tracking this information, when you treat yourself like a business, and that's what we're doing here. It's a business plan guide. Okay, we're taking the emotion out of it. We're recording actual real-life numbers. You might surprise yourself how few people you talk to, and yet at the end of the day you feel exhausted, like you've worked really, really hard, and yet you haven't talked to very many people. And I think that would be a direct result of, I'm going to go back up here to this quote. When we get to the end of the day and we're exhausted and yet we haven't done anything to progress our business, I think it's because our own life plan is not strong enough. We're getting yanked around too much by everybody else's goals because we don't have our own strong goals. So when my strong goals are, I've got to make 20 calls a day, and you can ask my assistant, she will absolutely swear by this. When I get working on my goals, I'll have people come in and they just want to make small talk. Title companies, sometimes agents, sometimes lenders. They'll come in, they ignore the fact that I've got my headset on and I'm making phone calls. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them will look in, they'll see I've got my headset on, they'll wave and I'll wave at them and they take off. Some will come down, sit themselves right in front of my chair, or sit themselves in my chair right in front of my desk, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing. They don't care. Okay? Their goal is, I'm going to have conversations with you right now. But my goal is stronger. I've got to make 20 calls. And I'll say hi to them, and I'll point to the phone, and I'll immerse myself in the notes I'm typing while I talk to people, and they get the hint. And when I talk to them later, if it's one of my agents, I'm like, you know what, I would love to talk with you. Here's a great time. Come and talk to me. But people that just drop in all the time, and you might say, you know, that's kind of rude. And you might be right. It might be kind of rude. But it's effective. And I would rather go back to my family and say, guess what? I did my goals today. We're going to be able to pay our bills. We're going to be able to, you know, pay off the car early. Or we're going to be able to finally get rid of that credit card. Because my goals were stronger than the goals of people that wanted to waste my time. All right? So again, I'm not trying to be callous. You got to love people. You got to take care of people. And if you're one of my agents on here listening to me today, please feel free to come in and chat with me. But if I'm on a phone call, I'm going to have that same level of respect for the people I'm talking to. And I'm going to, you know, they're there first, basically. I'm not going to hang up on them to have a new conversation. We're going to treat it like a business, okay? So here's our goals. At $100,000 a year, I've got to do 24 transactions roughly. At $60,000, I've got to do 13 transactions, which is roughly 1 a month with an extra one tossed in somewhere. So I've got to do 1 to 2 transactions a year, or 1 to 2 transactions every single month. And if I don't do at least this much, then I'm out of business. Can I dig deep enough within myself to make those hard choices? If it's 10 contacts a day, can I dig deep enough to say I'm not resting until I've made my 10? Can it be 4:55 when everybody else is packing up and they're getting ready to take off from work, and I'm sitting there saying, you know what, I got 5 more calls to make? Am I willing to stay an extra 30 minutes and get those calls in? Am I willing to overcome my fear of talking to people and go out to my farm area and actually, knock 5 extra doors. Because if you're not willing to do that, then let's start being honest with ourselves right now. Let's not run through all the family's savings before we realize we don't have any self-discipline at all. And let's go ahead and get a job that makes us punch a clock and has a boss staring over our shoulder every day to make sure that we are doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Or let's start building up our muscles, so to speak. All right? None of us, I'm not. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been training on it. Every time I train on it, I feel a little bit guilty and recommit myself to do a little bit better, to be a little bit more focused, and it helps. And that's why I encourage you guys to come back every week and keep attending these trainings, because we do let bad habits creep in. I know I do, at least. If I'm anywhere near normal for the average person, you're letting bad habits creep in as well. So come back every week. Come back to the trainings and say, where am I slipping up a little bit? Recommit yourself, rededicate yourself, and build up those muscles so that you do have a little bit stronger will than the other guys. Because that's all it takes. If you've got a little bit stronger will, you're willing to work just a little bit harder, then you'll be in the top 5 to 10% of real estate agents, and you'll do it practically overnight. Okay? Like I said with Steve Stringham, I think in 5 weeks he was busy enough he could only make 10 calls a day. With me, I had clients within a week and a half of making my 20 calls, and I was closing 2 transactions a month on average within the first month and a half. Okay, let's talk about the resources that we have available. We're going to review each day of the week and determine which hours of each day are going to be dedicated to real estate. So if you're sitting there at home taking notes, we have a training that we kind of talk about this. It's called our Ideal Week Planning, so you can reference this later on. But basically what you want to do is take your calendar out, and if you've got a full-time job or another job somewhere else or just demands from your family, whatever it is, you need to figure out which hours you're going to dedicate to real estate. All right, now this is your business plan. This is you posting your hours. So you could go to anybody out there, your spouse, your children, your clients, and say, I work these hours. So if I'm full-time, or if I just have a lot of demands on my time, I can do showing appointments Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, and Saturdays between these hours. And you can get your clients to march in step. All right? There are clients that will say, hey, we just found a great home. Run us out there right now. Drop everything that you're doing and come and help us. And sometimes you have to, because it is a hot market, and you might have to do that. But most of the time, you can say, you know what? Let me give them a call. A lot of people require 24 hours notice. Can we see it tomorrow at 6 p.m.? Oh, sure, that'll work too. Okay? Most of the time, people will march in step to you if you're determined, if you have a goal, and if you can focus that. If you don't, you're going to drop everything that you've got going on, and you're going to be yanked around by everybody all throughout the day. Okay? So first of all, determine your resources. Number one resource, time. What hours are you willing to work? And then commit to working those hours every single day. What's your commitment level? How much do I really need this? That $60,000 a year? Is this make it or break it money for me, really? And if so, don't ever compromise on your commitment of time, on your commitment of calls. That is a must-do if you're going to do this. And you know what? You compare this to any other business startup, because that's what we are. We're self-employed people. We are business startups. Every new agent getting in is a business startup. If you take a business startup for a restaurant, we've got a little Arctic Circle here in town, locally owned, because the owner is in there every single day working that counter. Okay? We're in a small town, so she's not going to make a ton of money. She's probably doing pretty well for herself, but she's in there every single day. What's her commitment level? It's very high. Okay? If I want to go out and start a bakery, because I'm a really good baker, I'm going to be there every day. I'm going to be working hard. I'm going to open, I'm going to close, because when you're self-employed, that's what you do. There's nothing different from those guys to you. Your commitment level has to be through the roof if you're going to treat this like a business. All right, the next question that you ask yourself is, what's my budget or timeline to start earning money? This is a big question new agents come to me with. They've got another job. They're like, we hate our job. We want to work out of it. We really want to do real estate full time. Should we just quit our job right now? And my answer is almost always no. Can you pay the bills for 3 or 4 months until you get that first paycheck? Because you can go out and get a client today, but they won't close for 2 months. You know, what's your savings? What's your budget? And if you do have a full-time job and you want to segue out of that into real estate full-time, then you go back to how many days a week do I have, what hours of each of those days, Monday through Saturday, or Sunday if you work Sundays, I don't. But what hours of each of those days am I going to work? And then you've got to focus and be true to yourself and true to your commitment level on that. But determine what your budget is, okay? Step 2, determine key activities. This is also part of that Ideal Week training. But now that you've got your hours mapped out, I can work 2 hours on Monday, I can work 4 hours on Tuesday because I get off a little bit earlier and my husband's going to pick up the kids or whatever. You know your schedule. Your schedule is personal to you. You know what it is now because of step 1, you know exactly which hours of the day you're going to work. Step 2, pick the key activities you can do during that day. Remember your focus, because every day you've got this daily business plan guide. Your focus is this calls. Now how I do this is I actually come down here and I do little hash marks. Okay? Every call that I make throughout the day, this travels with me. When I'm in my car, obviously I'm not doing hash marks in my car, but I do. I keep a record of everybody that I've called. And I'll do little hash marks, and I'll, you know, when I get 5, I'll do the little strike through them or whatever. And every day I track it. And then weekly, when I show up to work the next day, I print out a new daily plan guide, and I say, yesterday I had 5 calls, so far for the week, I'm at 5. And for the month, I'm also at 5, okay? And I start over my daily hash marks again from scratch, and this day I do a little bit better, and let's say I've got 10 today. So the next morning I come, I print it out, and I had 5 before plus my new 10. Now I'm at 15 for the week, 15 for the month. You get the gist? Okay? I am focused on my goals because this little sheet forces me to be. I cannot get to the end of a day and think, wow, I've worked really hard today, and look up here and see a goose egg. I know I'm lying to myself. Now, this is a real danger, lying to yourself. That's what this forum is here to help you do. We all do it. We all do it, okay? And it's in all different forms that we deceive ourselves. Yeah, this is my favorite soda. I'm just gonna do the one, or my favorite dessert. It's really not bad for me, and I've got diabetes in my family, and I can still lie to myself almost every day and eat food that's I know is crap food for me. Okay, we're great at doing this, great at deceiving ourselves, but we can't afford to deceive ourselves when it comes to our business plan. So when we get to the end of the day, we need to be honest. Did we work or not? Because our work really comes down. This is a person-to-person business. If we're not contacting people, we're not making money, period. I don't care how cool your presentation is. If you never deliver it to anybody, you never get a paycheck. And there are agents that will sit behind their desktop. They're building the awesomest PowerPoint presentation in the world. They've really put a lot of time and effort into their website, and it's just kicking butt. And they've posted some great things on Facebook, but they're not calling people. They're not talking to people. And unless those activities that they're doing, their website or their Facebook is generating calls into them, then they've effectively deceived themselves and said, I worked really hard today, when the truth is they didn't. They didn't get the job done. Okay? So we can't afford that deception. So we're going to determine our key activities. Prospecting is at the top of the list. Marketing, appointments, education, self-improvement, daily planning. We're going to make sure that these things get scheduled into those time slots that we know we have available. Step 3, what is our budget for marketing? You got a couple different choices. Every month I'm going to spend X amount on marketing. I like the 10% budget because for a brand new agent that doesn't have any money, 10% of nothing is still nothing, so you're not stressing yourself out. for agents that are starting to close a lot of deals, 10% could end up being a lot, but that's good. You can, as you get busier and busier, you've got less and less time for you to get on the phones proactively calling people, outbound calls. You want more and more inbound calls, people calling you saying, hey, I got your ad, or hey, you listed my neighbor's home, you did a great job for them, and I got your flyer in the mail, or whatever it is. You want more and more inbound calls. So as you get busier and busier, you start investing more of your income into marketing. You have to spend less time doing the marketing. You can spend more time on the actual appointments. But whatever it is that you're going to do, have a budget, have a plan in place, and set aside that money. All right? Other resources that you have, determine what those resources are. You've got lender resources. My lender, for example, when we list a property, we send out 100 postcards to the surrounding neighborhood. And it cost me 31.5 cents. And it cost my lender 31.5 cents. We split it equally so that it's legal. And it's a great resource. It's super inexpensive. It cost me no time at all. And this is, by the way, with George Coleman with Guaranteed Rate, one of our sponsors. I get to pick out the pictures from my listing, and usually 3 different photos that go into this postcard. I give him the list of 100 names from the surrounding neighborhood, and he builds the postcard and mails it out, and I get billed $31. Okay? Piece of cake, great marketing, and I don't have to do a lot of the work. Okay? Brokerage resources. We provide you with tons of stuff. Your website, enhanced marketing, which is, I give a training on that with listings about how to get the word out there a lot, communicate with your clients, things like that. The mobile application that we provide you with. There's lots of different resources that you have available already at your disposal that cost you nothing or next to nothing to get it out there for marketing. So step 3, I'm going to reiterate. Step 1, we've determined our goals and the resources, the hours that we have available to work. Step 2, we've determined the key activities that we're going to do within those hours. Step 3, we've determined how much money we're going to spend on different marketing things. And this is all very effective because, again, people will come to you. You're going to get inundated as a realtor with people trying to sell you stuff. And you'd be like, oh, maybe I should spend $1,000 a month on this web marketing campaign. Or maybe I should buy calendars or recipe cards or this or that or the other. You know what? This simplifies your life. You've got your business plan. So all of these other marketers' business plans of selling you everything in the world doesn't trump your own. You can say, you know what? I've got a 10% budget. Let's look at all of these different marketers, this menu, so to speak, of things that I could spend that 10% of money on, and let's pick something. And as you get more and more money, let's pick 2 or 3 things. But I'm not going to blow my budget. I'm going to stick to a budget because that's what businesses do, plain and simple. Okay, we're keeping this real simple. Step 4, and probably one of the more challenging things to do, because this is where we face ourselves in the mirror and be honest with ourselves. How many calls did I make daily? How many appointments did I generate from those calls? How many clients did I sign from my appointments? And how many closings did I get from those clients? So I'm going to take you back to our business plan guide. I've showed you how I fill out the contacts made. Now, let's say I made 10 contacts. I got 0 appointments. So for the week, I'm at 0. Next day comes around, I make 10 contacts again, get 0 appointments. Am I discouraged? Do I quit calling? Or do I look up here at my goal and say, you know what, my goal was to make 20 calls a day, and I only need 2 a week. So no, just because I've had 2 goose eggs in a row, and I've worked really hard that day, I really have. Legitimately, I made my calls, and I still didn't get any appointments. That's okay. Okay? I'm not doing anything wrong necessarily. At the end of 1 week, I'll know if I'm doing something wrong if I haven't got any appointments at all. But this helps you maintain hope as well. So not only does it help you have focus and get you started, it helps keep you going. And that's why I've started using this form more than my other form, is because it maintains that focus. day in and day out, and I get excited when I get to change these numbers. You know, it's like some of those little fast food restaurants, I think it's Arby's that does it or something, where they have a little bell by the door with a little plaque above it that says ring the bell if we gave great service. When I used to do telemarketing for a job, we would have something like that where if you got a sale, you could run over and ring a little bell or something like that. To me, changing this number gives me that same emotional response. You know what? I'm doing something well. I got one appointment today. That gives me one for the week, and it's my second one this month. I'm building my business, and I can look up here and see where I'm at on track and recommit myself to being better. Okay? Now, how many clients did I sign? I've got exclusive buyer broker agreements or exclusive right to sell agreements. This isn't how many business cards did I give out, because, man, I had a great appointment and I really talked with that guy and he loved me and he even asked for my business card at the end. That is not a client. A client is somebody that signs an exclusive agreement with you for you to represent them. Now, if you've been to my other trainings, that means that we've got to actually ask for those exclusive agreements. That's our goal. Every listing appointment, walk out the door with an signed exclusive right to sell listing agreement. Every buyer, I don't want to just go out and show homes to buyers. I don't want to just set up a lot of hot sheets for buyers. I want to meet with them and get an exclusive buyer broker agreement signed. That is my focus. That's what generates income. Me doing a whole bunch of free work, being a free taxi cab for somebody or sending them hot sheets, that does not generate income. That's not my goal. My goal is to get clients signed. Okay, so again, this helps us do our best practices. Okay, we want to stick to best practices, and that is getting those agreements signed up front. How many transactions have I closed? Did I get any today? Did I get any this week? How about this month? And how am I doing yearly? And every day I've got my goals up here, and I know exactly where I stand in my progress on every one of those goals. And I can't lie to myself, and I can't deceive myself. And then I've got all of these open notes or task lists. And I've got the note here, all data here should be entered into your contact relationship management software nightly. So if I'm going throughout the day and I get a call from somebody and they say, hey, I am John Smith and I just got your name from so-and-so and they said that you have a great mobile app that you could send us, or we want to list our home, or whatever it is that they need. I'm busy. I'm going to hurry and scribble their name into here because I'm not always sitting in front of my computer where I can just enter it right in. I'm going to scribble down some information. At the end of the night, I need to make sure all of this information gets input into my software, because I promised John Smith that I would have a mobile app sent to him by tomorrow, and I'm going to call tomorrow morning to make sure he got it, he could set it up. So I put that into my software with a one-day follow-up, and John pops up on my list for some more contacts the next day. All right? So I've got my notes, my task list. This is something that is useful to me. I can carry it around every day. I've got Jim Rohn's quote down at the bottom, either you run the day or the day runs you, and my own quote down at the bottom says, every day is your day. Make of it what you will. It is your gift to squander or cherish. Do not let it be stolen from you due to your own negligence. So this is a down and dirty approach to how do I make a business plan. And I've got a little one-page sheet, and I've learned over time if I don't make it simple, an agent won't do it. And this is simple enough that I can follow it. And it helps me every day. And the days when I start getting off track, I start to realize, you know what, I didn't follow this. I didn't print out my sheet. I didn't focus on my goals. I got tired at 2 o'clock because I just had lunch, and and that's when I always take that big dip. If I don't have something that I can focus on and say, here's my goal, I'm going to make a few phone calls, I'm going to walk around the office while I'm on the phone, whatever. I've got to have something that helps me get past those natural inclinations that say, take it easy, take a break, you've earned it, you deserve it. All of those voices talking in your head, and I've got to have something that says, you know what, you made a promise to yourself. You made a promise to your family that you're going to go out and you're going to generate this much income, and you're not going to do it unless you're making those calls. So get going. Step 5. Now that we've got the truth staring us in the face with that little sheet every single day, do we work harder? Do we ease up? Are we working too many hours and neglecting our family? Because we can do that too. That's the other end of the stick. Do we find that we do need to help or partner with other agents? And this could be because, you know what? Knocking doors scares me. Okay, I don't like knocking doors. Whether that's from some of the realtors in the news this past year where terrible things happened to them, or it's because I'm just shy and I don't like going out knocking doors by myself. Do I partner with somebody else, another agent, a mortgage lender, to go out and do that stuff? Am I just so darn busy now with all of these calls that I'm facing not being able to call back all of my leads? You know, that happens to a lot of agents, actually, believe it or not, and they just let those leads fall through the cracks, when what they could do is they could set up a partner relationship with another agent. Say, you know what, I'm generating a ton of leads, I'm going to give them all to you, and I want a 30% split instead of the industry standard 25. I'm going to be focused with you, but you're going to pay me better because of that focus. You have a line all day long outside your office of agents that are willing to take you up on that deal. So that is our last step. Face the truth. Okay? Are we truly, did we make our goals? Are we working towards our goals every single day? What do we need to do to make adjustments for our goals? And the nice thing about having this sheet in front of us is that we make adjustments quickly. If I've made those calls all week long and I didn't get any appointments, then I can adjust my scripts. If I've made those calls all week long and I've gotten appointments but I haven't signed any clients on, then I can adjust my presentations, my buyer presentation or my listing presentation or my for sale by owner presentation. If I've got the presentations done but I'm not selling anything, then I can adjust my marketing strategies. Go back and take the training on marketing your listings. In the end, it's up to you. You're self-employed. You are your own little startup business. And every day we've got to start it up again. We've got to recommit ourselves. And I'm hoping that this training today has helped you. My email address right here is brokerericlee@gmail.com. If you want a copy of that form that I shared with you that I use to track my goals, you're more than welcome to shoot me an email. Don't type it in here as a comment because I can't just hit reply to the comments in the webinar program. But if you email me, I can hit reply and attach that for you to use. And I hope it helps you. Again, another shout out for George, and thanks for him for helping sponsor this, and our YouTube channel, Elite Agent Training. You got to type it all in as one word. You can subscribe there, and when I get this video finished, I can upload it to that, and you can reference this later on, along with all the other videos that we have. So again, thank you for joining me. I hope to see you guys online next week. Bye-bye.